as you mentioned, K&B has a short run, but then you join another legendary crew that becomes one of the greatest crews of all time in Los Angeles, COI. The crew had a roster of superstars that included yourself, Man One, Vile, Sal, Decline, Sacred, and the legendary Euler. Am I forgetting any names?
Yeah, there was other names. There was Comet, there was Lexo, there was Seance, there was Flask. So there was definitely, the Great. So there was like a few other artists that were in the crew, but you named the heavy hitters.
Can you please talk about when you called together a meeting at Shakey's Pizza and proposed the idea of a new crew?
Yeah, so I got to go back to like 1991. We were still K&B, right? Me and Vile and these other guys, and there was a wall in City Terrace where they were going to do a new skateboard park. There wasn't a lot of skate parks back then, and so they were building a skate park, and it was called Lip Slide. And so on that wall was us, K&B, and Sacred, and a few other guys from COI. And now the way I met Sacred and the whole COI crew was going to Belmont and just painting at Belmont. So we would paint there all the time, And so one day I ran into this kid, Sacred. He was just doing some crazy burners, and I was like, yo, what's up? And we got to hang out. So every time I'd go to Belmont, I'd always see Sacred there. And we were cool. We were homies. And so, but I never thought about joining forces or anything. I was just like, well, we're going to do our own thing and you're going to do your thing. But I respected him and he was a cool cat. And, there was all these other guys, like I said, like Comet and Lexo, who would hang out and stuff like that. And at the time, Euler was writing Fleece. And he was in another crew. He was like in a Hollywood crew before he was in COI. And so, it wasn't even that yet, So it was just like Sacred was really the guy. Like he was the one that was doing COI. And so we were doing this wall at City Terrace at Lip Slide. And so I can't remember if I invited him or whatever, but we all showed up at the wall. And so we decided to like, let's paint together. Let's do a K&B COI production on this wall. And that's what we started out doing, right? And so we started painting and whatever. Well, as we were painting, Sacred, like we were taking a break or whatever, and Sacred was like, you know what? Why don't you guys just get in the crew? Like he just put it like that, And I was like, well, okay, cool. We'll do like K&B, COI, whatever. He's like, no. It's just one crew, just COI. Just bring everybody from K&B into the crew, and we'll just be COI. And then I was like, oh, all right, that sounds cool. So it was that simple. We were all friends already. Now that day, the reason I don't forget that day is because that's the day that I got in the crew. That's also the day that Fleece became Euler. Because that day, Fleece was hanging out. We all knew him. He was obviously like already doing buses and killing it already. But that day, for whatever reason, he told us, he was like, hey, you know what? I have a new name. I just came up with this new name. It's Oil. O-I-L. And I remember when he first said it, and we were like, okay, whatever. And I already got the tag for it, and he showed us the tag. And then we're like, okay. So that day was the first time he tagged it, like in City Terrace, right there on the tracks. And he's like, that's gonna be my new name, and it's gonna be Oil. It's gonna be Euler. He already had it all figured out. And we're like, all right. So I even have a photo of him and the rest of the crew just standing in front of the wall, checking it out as we're painting this Lip Slide wall, this mural or whatever it was. But that was the day. That was the day that I got in the crew, that Val got in the crew. That's the day that K&B became COI, and that's the day that Fleece became Euler,